I want to correct that. And I thank you all for being here and giving me the opportunity to talk to you about Relay for Life and to share my story with you as well. Before I begin, I would like to take a moment to give a round of applause to my team, specifically those who've worked to put this program together today. This entire team has been dedicated to making Charles City, Relay in Charles City, an amazing event for 4 years now, and it's been a privilege to work with them. So for some of you, you know the mission of Relay very well, but I find it helps me to reflect on the mission. The American Cancer Society, or ACS, is a nationwide organization whose mission is the elimination of cancer, saving lives, and diminishing the suffering from cancer through research, education, advocacy, and service. So when they began their work, the word cancer was spoken only in whispers, and the disease was an almost certain death sentence. It used to be that if you heard your family member had cancer, you automatically started grieving for them because there were no happy endings to that story. But today, 2 out of 3 people survive cancer for at least 5 years. But that's not good enough. We have to keep fighting until there's 3 out of 3 people surviving cancer. Relay for Life is a signature activity of ACS. Relay provides an opportunity for everyone within the community to come together and participate in the fight against cancer. Nationwide, over 3.5 million people participate in Relay events. Relay started back in 1985 with a surgeon who walked for 24 hours and raised $27,000 for cancer. There are 3 core principles to Relay. First, we celebrate. We celebrate the lives of those who battled and won and are still battling. We do this with our survivor reception and our opening survivor lab. Second, we remember. We remember the loved ones that we've lost to the disease through our Luminaria service. And third, we fight back. We work together year-round to support the work being done to treat, prevent, and eventually eradicate this disease that has touched so many of us. So why Relay? Relay because 1 in 3 people will be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. So if we look at this room now, let's say there's about 50 of us. That means statistically 14 to 15 of us in this room will have a diagnosis or have already had a diagnosis in our lifetime. And I don't know about you, but that scares me. Relay, because the money that's raised goes to fund cutting-edge research that is helping those diagnosed live longer and better lives. In addition to research, Relay helps fund activities to help educate people on prevention, detection, and treatment options. How many of you have heard stories of individuals who may not be here today if it wasn't for that routine mammogram or that PSA test that caught early prostate cancer, and they're now here, and they are still here to survive and talk about it. Relay for programs like the Cancer Resource Network. Clearly the devil does not want us to speak well today. One of my favorite things about ACS are the support networks and services provided, not only to survivors, but to their network of caregivers. When a person is diagnosed, it is very easy for us to lose sight of the entire person behind that medical diagnosis. ACS services range from sponsoring the special Vietnam veteran survivor group that my dad was a part of, the special bra and wig shops that my mother used, the legal services that my friend of mine called on when he was making plans with the end stages of his father's battle with cancer. Relay because cancer is indiscriminate and knows no boundaries. It strikes the old, the young. It strikes black, white, and Native American alike. It strikes the sinner and the saved with no abandon, male or female, rich or poor. Cancer does not care. And in a small community like Charles City, you cannot find a person that has not been touched by cancer, either personally or with someone in their family. So let me answer the question why I Relay. My family's fight for cancer started many years ago when I was a teenager and I lost my grandfather to prostate cancer. Since then, there have been several diagnoses from both my family in the Tidewater area and my husband's family here in Charles City. And although each diagnosis was real and the losses were hard, it was not until January 2010 that cancer became a daily reality for me when my mother was first diagnosed with breast cancer. She had a double mastectomy, chemotherapy, scans showed that we were clear, we were good. 3 months later, we were told it was still there. More surgery, more chemo, more radiation. Everything's good. 6 months later, it's back again. Surgery the third time. We were just going to do surgery, and once again, After being told we're good, 4 months later, it shows back up. So in May of 2013, my mother began a course of chemotherapy at Duke University in North Carolina that she will likely continue for the rest of her life. But because of God's grace, those demon cells, as she calls them, have been held at bay with no spreading or growth of any kind since May. Amen. This would be enough to get most people inspired, but God had a different plan for me and my family. So while my mom was fighting, my father was diagnosed with throat cancer. So while I was pregnant with my second child and full of all the excitement that should bring, I was also terrified every day that I could lose both of my parents. This is when my struggle with faith actually started. But that's when I also learned that these struggles are tests that we must endure to be a testimony to what God is able to do. Relay started out as something to help me honor my mother when I thought our fight was over. But it was the Relay and my Relay family here that has become what I needed to restore my faith and keep me going. Yes, the fight for me is personal, but what about you? What is your personal reason for Relay? Do you relay because you want to be part of the team with ACS to fight until there's a world with no cancer? Do you relay for this feeling of community? What makes Relay so special is that this is an event for the whole community. I hope that you know that although we don't raise hundreds of thousands of dollars here in Charles City, when we raise the few dollars we do, and you can't raise as a few dollars that they do, and it was my sister-in-law always says, Podunk, Iowa raises their few dollars, it all adds up. And when thousands of people invest in a common cause, we can make a difference, and we do make a difference. I hope that you relay because you or another loved one with a family history of cancer now has options for detection, that they can start the dialogue with their doctors to make sure that they are monitored as needed. I hope that you relay for a little girl in your life like my daughter Joelle, who will have the information she needs to make informed decisions about her health when she grows up. I hope that you relay for the little boys in your life, like my son and my nephew, who will grow up knowing the things that they should do in life to help prevent this disease. Their tomorrows will be better because of our efforts today. Speaking of children, I am not a theologian. I cannot cite you the verse, the story, or what was going on, but I know somewhere in the Bible it says, and a little child shall lead them. So the first relay here in Charles City, my son was 3. My son Jalen was 3 years old, and he was just learning how much he loved to run. And he started walking around the track, and then he started running. And at some point in time, I asked him, well, what are you doing? And he said, Mommy, I have to win the race. Now, he didn't know anything about all the illnesses that impacted our family. He just knew that he had to keep running so he could win the race. We have to run this way. Win this race. One more quick story, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how Relay works here in Charles City. If anyone knows my husband Justin and his brother Jeffrey, you know that they are not only brothers, but they are the best of friends. So when Jeff was diagnosed with prostate cancer at age 40, it shook Justin to his core. And if you know Justin, you know he doesn't worry about anything, drives me crazy. But this really frightened him. And the day we found out about Jeffrey's diagnosis, we were standing in the kitchen and he was talking about how worried he was. And he looked at me and he said that he was saying how it felt like cancer was coming for him. And he looked at me and he said, Nicole, it's going to get me. And I replied to him, it may come, but it will not take any more from this family without one heck of a fight. You see, I'm a fighter. I come from a family of fighters. I'm married into a family of fighters. And I became a part of a community of fighters here in Charles City. And at times we may feel like mere Davidson cancer is a Goliath, but we all know how that story ends and what can happen when God steps in. Amen. So I want to wrap up by telling you a little about Relay for Life Charles City through my eyes and experiences over the last 4 years. This committee starts working on Thursday and at the social services building, and they're sorting and distributing T-shirts to teams, giving last-minute instructions, and the vibe in the room is so great and so exciting. You can feel it from the parking lot. So some of my closest family friends know that I'm a musical person. I live my life with this soundtrack going on in my head, and I feel like sometimes that's how God communicates to me through song. And every year, as a logistic chair, I get to the field very, very early on Saturday morning, and every year when I've gotten in my car that morning, there's been this song, a song of some sort, that I felt God was playing for me to either get me going, wake me up. Last year, it was after all the rain and what the field looked like, I was incredibly nervous about what we were going to walk into. And so I got in the car last year and I turned on the radio and God sent me a message through the great Purple One Prince. Let's Go Crazy was on the radio. And I knew that was it. Yeah, I never said that God only used gospel music to speak to me. He just speaks to me in different ways. So the real excitement starts around 10 a.m. on Saturday, and the teams start filling in around noon. Ms. Mildred and her team, they're normally around the first ones to get there. And as they're setting up, you can see all the work that they've put into this for months now. You can see the love that they have for those that they fight for now and those that they've lost. You can see them laughing and you can see them celebrate. And at one point in time last year, I remember seeing a member of, I think it was Boo Boo's Buddies and Kitty's Pals. It was a young member of the team, and they were setting up, and they stopped at a picture, and they just stopped and they cried. And someone else from the team came over and they held them. And that's another great thing about Relay, because at Relay, you never have to explain your tears, because we've all cried them at some point in time, and we all understand. And around 5 p.m., the Hayes family will be in full effect with Miss Bonnie Gardner and several others hosting our Survivors Dinner, and it's a celebration for them. So, cute, Kool and the Gang celebration going on in my head. They are here. They have fought. They are fighting, and they are our inspiration. When dinner ends and they make their way to the track, members of this entire community are there to welcome them and cheer them on as they take the first lap around the track. Then all the teams come around the track and one by one tell the world who they are and that they are part of this bigger fight against cancer. About 9 o'clock, we lower the lights and quiet down, and that's when Crystal and Celia take over. And they succeed in having and leading one of the best luminary services anywhere. At some point, Smokey Norval's God is Able plays, and my favorite lyrics rings out over the spring. And when the doctor says no, who can still say yes? Celia takes the microphone and reads the names of every survivor who is represented around that track. Families walk together around the track during that time. They gather around the luminaria, they reflect, they cry, they pray, and they praise God that they are there together once again. My family does the same thing. All but one, my sister-in-law, Angela. Because every year she makes her way to the home bleachers, and she sits there and she watches Crystal from across the field do her thing. Because this is when Crystal goes into the visitor stand and she takes those luminary bags that have been spelling out the word hope, and she shifts them so that they spell the word cure. And this is actually the moment that moves my mother and all of my family to come up from Tidewater every year to Charles City for Relay. Because that moment puts something in her heart and keeps her fighting for another year. And if I've never told you this before, Crystal, thank you. Right after Luminaria, the Haze's make their way to the concession stand to start preparing coffee and hot chocolate and breakfast food to keep the masses going through the night hour. And just like clockwork, somewhere around 3 o'clock, one of us starts whining. I'm tired. I don't want to go home. I don't want to do this. I just don't want to do it. Except for Jeffrey. Jeffrey never flinches. He's always ready.
He's delirious.
And sometime in that period of time, someone says, it ain't over till the sun comes up.
That's right.
And in those quiet hours is in that time that my granddaddy's favorite hymn comes to mind. Precious memories, how they linger, how they ever touch my soul. In the stillness of the midnight, precious secrets he'll unfold. The thing about this fight is sometimes you get tired, but when you look around and realize that you aren't in it alone. So just around 5:45, we're going to start to see the dawn of a new day rising from the east. And as we're preparing to bring the 2014 Relay to a close, we will be fighting cancer together with our faith. And as I come to a close, let me tell you the lyrics of a song that keep me going through Relay and through planning and on the tough days, and I hope that it'll help you. No, he didn't bring me out here to leave me lonely. Even when I can't see clearly, I know that you are with me. And many of you may not have recognized that line, but you might recognize the chorus. It says, I just can't give up now. Come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me the road would be easy, And I can't believe he's brought me this far to leave me. Thank you all for coming out today. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you. And thank you for all that you do in this fight against cancer. And I'll see you at Relay.